Next, we're going to be talking about Denver-based rock band Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats with their new album, Tearing at the Seams. Tearing at the Seams is their second album. As I've already talked about, their first album is it's honestly one of my favorites of all time. I think To Pimp a Butterfly is the better album of 2015, but Nathaniel Rateliff holds a special place in my heart that makes it just one of my all-time favorites.
My first introduction to Nathaniel Rateliff, I remember we were driving to Wright State for one of the first times ever. We're young college lads who haven't really experienced college yet, and we're excited to go and learn. And you're like, we're pulling the Taco Bell parking lot, and I was like, "Did you hear this new Macklemore track?" I was talking about Downtown, which is
Downtown used to be good. All right.
It was okay. It still is okay. It's one of Macklemore's better tracks, in honesty. But he was like, there's this track where it has like a southern inspiration to it. It's kind of like southern gospel inspiration to it. And I was like, what? It's called like Son of a Bitch. And I'm like, wait, it's called Son of a Bitch, and they played it on the radio? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I don't think that's how radio works. And apparently it is. Apparently you can say Son of a Bitch.
Thank you, WNKU.
But
I'll miss you forever in my heart.
But you introduced me to the track S.o.b, Son of a Bitch, and I was hooked by this, just again, Nathaniel Rateliff's southern gospel style inspiration, like his southern gospel inspired roots, I would say. At least that's the mindset it gave me. But I listened to their last record.
It was a self-titled.
Yeah, I thought it was. I was trying to think of a name for a second, but nothing came. And my biggest problem, personally, I know we have two different opinions about this, but I do like tracks like Son of a Bitch and Let Go. I think moments like that are really... I think the more energetic moments on the album are what makes it so good, the hyper moments on the album. But when I feel like when it tries to like slow down a little bit, I think it just loses me, personally. And that was my major problem with that last album. And with this new album, Tearing at the Seams, it's the same issue. I feel like this album is too much... just too slow for its own good. I think... not like, I don't hate any of these tracks.
No, I know.
But like, I feel like this album is just... I'm not going to say too much of the same, because I think there is enough variation to make it different, but it is too slow. I wish moments popped up more here and there. And two of my personal favorite moments on the album, the two bonus tracks that pop up in the end that are a little bit more energetic, are just bonus tracks. They're on the deluxe edition.
Yeah.
And I feel like they would have fit in to add some like momentum to certain moments on this album. But... this album, it is well crafted. I do like the production. I like Nathaniel Rateliff's voice, and the lyrics are not that bad, but they're nothing super to write a stick about, in my personal opinion. But his performance is good. It's solid throughout. Production's solid throughout. Nothing really to complain about. But the end, I just felt like I was just kind of like lost. I felt like there's just too much of the same style being presented, or too much of the same atmosphere, too much same of the mood. I felt like it was just kind of hard to, not hard to swallow, but it was just hard to like consciously pay attention to, personally, for me. Again, I really enjoyed the production. I enjoyed Nathaniel Rateliff's voice, and I wish there was more I liked about this album, but the end, I don't think this is a bad project by any means, but I just don't think there's enough to make it as good as I think Nathaniel Rateliff has the potential to be. I think he can be he can be up there with like Angel Olsen as like someone in that figure of like indie rock.
Oh, for sure. I think so.
I feel like since he moves at a slower speed, which I'm not saying you can, but like the major hit, S.o.b from the last project, that's what got him in. And not to say You Worry Me is like not as big as a hit, because I really do personally enjoy that track. I think that's an excellent track on this album, but I don't think any of the other tracks on this album can hold like a note to a lot of the tracks that are on the self-titled. I don't think this is bad by any means. I do like it, and this is another project I feel like I want to go back and listen to more. But in the end, I'm kind of just left wanting more. Same thing from Young Fathers, but this, I feel like there's Young Fathers I know have it. I feel like there's just a little bit off. Nathaniel Rateliff, I think, is just off tonality wise. I feel like he needs to brighten up a little bit on certain tracks, or just take it down a different route for a minute or two. Just do something different to surprise me, because I feel like this is kind of paint by numbers at times. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's good, but this is like honestly what I expected. Like, it did not surprise me, which it's nice that it's what I was expected, but I was also expected to be a little bit disappointed by that too, because I was a little bit disappointed by self-titled. So I don't know. I do like this project. I'm gonna let you go on your rant, because this is one of your favorite groups, so you can talk about whatever you want. So
All right.
I'm gonna sit over here and drink my water.
So on the first go around with Tearing at the Seams, I was a little disappointed, and then I realized why. And I think it was because I was expecting another self-titled. Like I said, like, I love this album to death, but I guess I had to really look inside and say Tearing at the Seams is not the self-titled. It never will be. But the second time I listened to that with that in mind, and the third time and the fourth time, I enjoyed it immensely more. Rateliff's he's not afraid to experiment with new sounds on the album. The self-titled album I found was very sonically similar. Always hit with this kind of like rockabilly blues anthems, really catchy melodies, well-written lyrics. But Tearing at the Seams like takes inspiration from like the 50s, 60s, 70s type music, but from different artists. So Nathaniel Rateliff, I think, was obviously inspired by artists like Otis Redding or John Fogerty and Creedence Clearwater Revival. I think those are huge inspirations for him.
You know what this reminded me of? Who died? Like Sharon Jones. I don't know why it reminded me a lot of Sharon Jones. I don't know why.
Yeah, Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings.
Yeah, I think her last album, her actual last album she did with Dap Teens, not just like last in general. But
Yeah.
Her last posthumous album, S.o.b Woman, it gives me similar feels to this record, because that record I felt like it was kind of paint by numbers in my personal opinion. Not that I think it was bad, but it just gave me that similar feel. Maybe this is just like gospel inspired or southern inspired, I would say. Just maybe makes
it's southern fried rock.
And maybe that just sound just gives me that feel, but like I feel like there's not enough risks on both of those projects. Personally, I know some people really love that Sharon Jones album, and you have a chance to, because I think there are some great moments on that project. And if you want to love this project too, I'm not going to complain, because there are some great moments. Nathaniel Rateliff, fantastic artist, but I feel like he's just like, there needs to be more. And I'm gonna let you continue because I cut you off there.
Okay. I guess as far as sound goes, Rateliff's obviously inspired by artists like James Brown or Ray Charles that aren't. They're present in the first album, but they are not as prominent. Does Tearing at the Seams sound different? Absolutely. But is it a bad thing in my opinion? No. Self-titled was very upbeat, very in your face, very fun. Like, let's all go to a hoedown kind of thing. But this Tearing at the Seams is more laid back and introspective, very somber, I think is a good word to describe it. I've read interviews, I've read more into the album just because like I personally enjoy it. And Nathaniel Rateliff is talking about the Night Sweats was like his last ditch effort into music. He had like struggled with alcoholism, struggled with kind of a broken family. His best friend and co-founder of the album has like cancer and wasn't doing well for a long time. I feel like Tearing at the Seams is kind of an introspective look on Nathaniel Rateliff's life during those times. Self-titled is full of really feel-good music and kind of delves into some slower territory sometimes, which I personally like just as much as the upbeat tracks. But Tearing at the Seams is more of the kind of the down low tracks, more of Nathaniel Rateliff's life, quite literally tearing at the seams, hence the name of the album. A couple of exceptions.
Name of the closing trap.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. A couple of exceptions here. Intro track Shoe Boot is very like, like saxophone kind of bayou feel almost.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like you're playing music floating down the Mississippi River.
Yeah, I know that's more upper beat tracks, but honestly, that's one of my least favorite. I don't know why. I just feel like
there's
it's
not.
just,
I mean, I don't think there's like a lot of lyrics, but it reminds me a lot of like
Yeah.
just an R&B track. Another example of that is Intro, which is very. That was actually recorded all with one mic. Everybody in the same room recording with one
That's
mic.
dope.
They try. I mean, they try like really really cool things. I think. But I just think that his voice carries this album more than his band does, and I
Yeah.
think that they had a very equal part on the last album, but it's more Rateliff himself, kind of.
in actual night sweats.
Yeah, he's sweating, he's singing, and he definitely gives a reason of why it's
Yeah.
his namesake on the cover of this
Yeah.
album and in the front of the band's name, and why he's the leader. Tracks like "You Worry Me," the lead single, very prominent drums and guitar riff. I'm alright today.
I was hoping you were gonna do that.
Super catchy, but the very ending of it, you worry me, you worry me. I love it. Drives the
Dude,
song
when were we
home.
starting our southern rock
Classic.
band?
I would love to be in a southern rock band. I love that rockabilly like style.
Dude.
There's just something in me that loves like this southern fried kind of rock sound.
Who's one of my favorite country artists right now, and I feel like would collaborate really well with
Chris
it?
Stapleton.
No, JPEG Mafia. JPEG Mafia. Veteran was a country album, according to JPEG Mafia.
Yeah, so was Young Thug's latest album.
I would actually count that a country.
I hate you. Chris Stapleton would do really well in this. I was gonna get into that later.
In all honesty, if there was a JPEG Mafia, Nathaniel
I would definitely listen to
I
it.
feel like that would be like the best thing ever. Just imagine Germs, but with Nathaniel Rateliff. There's no shame you can't take, but it's actually Nathaniel Rateliff. Wouldn't that be dope?
I would definitely listen to that.
Nathaniel Rateliff do the remixes.
Another really high point I was telling you about is possibly one of my favorites. Still Out There Running, toward the end. It's just very somber, introspective. It's about changing and how your loved ones and lover might not see you the same way if you ran away and never came back, or even if you left for a short period and they just saw you in a different light when you came back. It's just Nathaniel Rateliff over a really like haunting guitar. The rhyme scheme is something that really caught my ear. The lyrics really caught my ear. Just really somber. It's a late night when you want to get in your feels kind of track, and I really like what he's done with such a minimalistic style. Again, really shows why his name is on the cover of this album. Is it all good? Definitely not. And you talked about it a little bit. A lot of the tracks use this kind of fade out technique that was used on the last album. I think that's kind of just a pitfall that some artists kind of land into, where they're just like, I don't really know how to end the song, so we're just going to fade it out and act like it's playing forever. Minor nitpick, it seems really lazy to me, but I know that the band's not lazy.
Yeah.
I know that they're constantly coming up with like new material, and I know that they are still actually like playing their instruments and doing really well at it too. And the songs really aren't as catchy as the songs on the self-titled, like, I have to admit. But they're growing on me every day, of course. And then one of my biggest problems, I think, was Coolin' Out, one of the tracks on here.
Yeah, Coolio, that's my least favorite
I
track.
hate Coolio. I'm just kidding. I have 2 Coolio albums.
Do you?
It Takes a Thief and Gangsta's
Did
Paradise.
I buy one of those for you?
Yeah, it's Gangsta's Paradise. It doesn't have a cover. You made it yourself. Yeah, you made it. You made the cover.
I don't remember.
Yeah, you made it for me for my birthday. But anyway, Coolin' Out, I think, was a cut track from the first album, or at least like the first finished track from this album, or somewhere on, like in the EP that they released in between, because like I remember it from somewhere, and I just like didn't really like it. It doesn't really fit in. And then he collaborates with this girl named Lucius on a couple of tracks, but like, get her out of there. Seriously, she brings nothing to the table, in my opinion. And when I said Chris Stapleton would be a great collaborator
With JPEG Mafia, yeah.
with Nathaniel Rateliff, that would be outstanding. I don't understand why they're not collaborating, because that would get him into this rock scene or even the country scene, or even an artist like Sturgill Simpson. I think would do really well.
Oh yeah, that'd be dope.
With the Night Sweats. So yeah, I think that there are some problems with Tearing at the Seams. It's not everything that I knew and loved about the self-titled first album that like just captures my heart to this day. But I think that it has the potential to do so. I just have to I think it needs to be looked at in a different light than the first album, because it's not. It's more introspective, more somber, and just honestly more haunting, I think. So I enjoyed it. Admittedly, like not as much as the first one, and I think I'm gonna have to give it, like, just talking about it makes me remember how much I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna have to give this one an 8.25, I think.
Overall, just a little bit too somber for my personal taste. But I feel like I want it at the end. It left me wanting more, and I don't like that feeling that from an album. Unless I feel like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't like feeling that from an album, and I feel like overall this is just not. It's more what I was expecting, but I was also expecting it not to be that good overall. I don't think this album's bad. I do like it. I do think the production's good for the most part. I do think Nathaniel Rateliff's performance is good. I do think the songwriting is good. It's not super amazing or out there or anything, but I think he does have a lot of personal edge to it. And overall, it's not as good as self-titled, and it's not super catchy or anything like that, but I do overall like the style. It flows well together, and I do like the performances on it. I'm gonna give it 7.5. I do like it.
Nice.
I think more can be given overall.
So what's my track record on albums and artists that I've introduced you to?
What is your track record? I don't even remember. Like this and Chicano Batman. Is there any others?
Doom.
Doom was like a classic one from like high school.
Heck yeah, Doom.
But yeah, I guess you have a track record.
It's a good one.